The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Leila Rhodes, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at NetCom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's webinar, Introduction to Software and Programmability with Cisco DevNet. Presenting today's topic is Robert Piper. Robert is a well-versed Cisco certified subject matter expert, having over 34 years in the information technology industry. He has provided corporate training, including hands-on and virtual practice labs that feature the latest Cisco equipment. The time spent in the IT industry speaks volumes of his knowledge and expertise, and his training programs use real-world relevant scenarios to help professionals prepare for the on-the-job networking environments and Cisco certification exams. Now, please keep in mind that this is just an overview of a very robust topic, but we do offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored towards your specific requirements. So if you're interested in the further discussion about those, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at www.netcomlearning.com. I want to remind everyone that today's session is also being recorded, so you will get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. NetCom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We have 9 practice areas in which we specialize, and they encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the networking practice area. NetCom Learning also offers a comprehensive training portfolio for networking courses, and our upcoming classes include various training on Cisco data center solutions, Cisco core platforms, and many more. And private training to teams is also available, and those learning plans can be customized to the specific needs of your audience. You can also access a variety of networking marketing assets, such as the free on-demand training and blogs, by clicking on the available webinar handout, and these offerings can also be found with a simple search on our website at www.netcomlearning.com. So in this webinar today, we will learn the concepts and tools used for software-defined networks. And the webinar will not only talk about why the future marketplace will require network engineers and application developers and infrastructure developers to work together, but also how cross-functional work is required to drive network automation. Now, before we do get started today, I just want to give you a quick overview of the logistics. To start with, you have the option to adjust the window size to your liking. You can simply hit the escape key and find the zoom button on the top left corner of your GoToWebinar viewer. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters, but you can feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. Also, to get the best out of today's webinar, we've included the slides, courses we've talked about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. So you can refer to those at any time to get a better understanding of the topic. And now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the time over to Robert to present today's topic. Robert, you should be able to share your screen now. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Leila?
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome Well, here's our agenda for this afternoon. And as an introduction, let me just say that one of the defining characteristics of modern network management, and specifically a network management system, is what we call network automation, which is the process of automating both the configurations, the managing, the testing, the deploying, and the actual operations of both the physical and virtual devices within our enterprise-wide networks. Service availability improves when you automate everyday functions, specifically those repetitive types of tasks that we typically utilize with the command line interface today. And of course, not only are we network admins and engineers, but we all have a security hat on now today, right? So security has become a major concern. So as new devices are introduced to the network and as companies connect their branch offices, technology professionals like you and I need to secure the entire continuum from the edge to the data that travels on the network to mobile devices and sensors connected to, or via, I should say, the Internet of Things. So as a network admin or an engineer, you need to prepare yourself for this evolution that includes network management and adding to your skill sets in perhaps some different areas that you might be used to, including, we're going to talk today about some SDN concepts and enterprise solutions. We're going to talk a little bit about network programmability. We're going to include a brief overview of the model-driven programmability stack. And then we're going to talk briefly about some configuration management tools, including Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. And then we'll have a couple of questions. I'll be available for some question and answer at the end of the session. So as digital businesses continue to evolve, doing things the old box-by-box way has become too slow. API is a term that you're likely have heard about and you're going to hear a lot more about. Lets administrators write code once and then use it over and over again. This doesn't require that all engineers be programmers, but they do need to be software fluent and comfortable with writing scripts using languages like Python, making API calls, and then working with software. People who create apps need to know how to program, and engineers who work with Cisco gear in particular need to be software power users. In either case, partnering with one of our learning partners like NetCom Learning for your DevNet training can also help. DevNet is Cisco's developer program to help developers and IT professionals who want to write apps and develop integrations with Cisco products, platforms, and APIs, including products in software-defined networking, security, cloud, data center, IoT, collaboration, as well as open source software development. So perhaps when you hear the term developer program, it might be easy to get the impression that one needs to be a programmer. DevNet is structured to allow a larger audience to gain increased value from our Cisco infrastructure through the use of APIs, providing value to both the developer, while at the same time making the life of the network engineer and admin a lot easier as more and more network configuration changes are being automated. So when DevNet was first launched, there were only a few products with exposed APIs, limiting the scope of DevNet. Today, however, all of our Cisco products across all product areas are API accessible. The technology tab of developer.cisco.com has been segmented to support IoT, cloud, networking, data center, collaboration, analytics and automation, security, open source, and I think mobility and services, so that regardless of your particular focus area, DevNet can make your life easier. An important distinction or point to understand is that DevNet has become the de facto standard way of working with Cisco equipment. So Cisco has actually evolved from a proprietary hardware-first company to become an open software-driven organization that has shifted to a software-first model. The question for you as a network engineer is whether you have adopted your skills accordingly. If not, DevNet can provide a curated fast track for doing that. We talked a little bit about API, right? What's an API? Application Programming Interface. It's something that sits between the app and the user and the app's back end. So APIs could be incredibly simple or massively complex. There's no real hard and fast rule on this. The simplest way to break it down is that an API gives you a way to interact with a platform or a service. And APIs are not exclusive to the web. Take iOS or Xbox development, for example. Developing for either platform involves heavily interacting with each platform's API. An iOS app that would like to provide a user with a way to upload or edit photos within a user's camera roll might use the iOS Photo Kit API to do it. Telling a user they've unlocked an achievement or that a game session is ready within an Xbox session will use the appropriate API for that too. And companies like Uber utilize third-party APIs extensively throughout their products. And they've achieved a world-class customer experience while being able to scale considerably fast. At the practical level, when you examine the technology components of Uber, they rely on other core services to build their mobile app. By leaving it to specialists who focus on niche elements, things like payments and infrastructure, Uber can then focus on their core competency, which is delivering transportation as a service. And they rely on service specialists to power many of the key elements for their mobile app. For example, they utilize Amazon Web Services for their infrastructure to be able to continuously operate without disruption. For their mapping technology, Uber utilizes Google Maps to help riders and drivers find each other. Their messaging stack is provided by Twilio, ensuring that you get that notification right when your driver arrives. With SendGrid APIs, Uber can send out emails and receipts for passengers with an email service. So by leaving all of these functional elements to the specialists who focus on these areas as their core business, it allows Uber to focus on their competency of delivering transportation to the masses. And it's this type of laser focus that allows them to put all of their energy on their primary business objective, which is providing a world-class transportation experience. So making the commitment to build a highly scalable app like Uber, as you can imagine, is a massive undertaking without third-party API providers. So not only do you need to think about infrastructure and communications, but also user management, especially in customer application scenarios. Now, although many companies have had a move toward a digital transformation on their radar for perhaps a number of years, the COVID-19 pandemic and its changing market conditions have increased this urgency as organizations across the globe weathered the pandemic by compressing years of digital transformation into just a few months. And research has reflected this urgency. In response to the pandemic and its rippling effects on businesses in 2020, nearly 3 in 4 organizations continue their digital transformation investments. 2/3 of those companies are increasing investments or completely evolving their strategies to become digital-first companies. In 2020, virtually all industries, from retail and manufacturing to finance and hospitality, all shifted the way that they do business. The uniting trait across all of them, you ask? A sharpened, more urgent focus on digital maturity. In fact, according to a new report, 75% of companies continue focusing on their digital transformation initiatives despite all of the disruptions. And almost 2/3 of those companies actually increase their investment efforts. And digital transformation relies on an organization's ability to package its services, its competencies, and assets into modular pieces of code that can be repeatedly leveraged. So every company in the world already has valuable data and functionality housed within its backend systems. Capitalizing on this value, however, means liberating it from silos and making it interoperable and reusable in different contexts, including combining it with valuable assets from both partners as well as other third parties. So these APIs that we're talking about allow these synergies by letting developers access and combine digital assets in different systems, even if those systems were never intended to interoperate. In their most basic form, APIs are how software talks to software. But if the APIs are designed with the developer experience in mind, they become extremely powerful, allowing developers to repeatedly leverage both data as well as functionality for new apps and automations. It's no wonder then that new artificial intelligence and machine learning powered API security and monitoring solutions are gaining widespread adoption to help companies detect and block malicious attacks. In fact, usage for anomaly detection, bot protection, and security analytics grew in excess of 230% year over year among Apogee customers between September of 2019 and September of 2020. So why DevNet, you ask? This is perhaps the most important point for you as a network professional. The fact is, the world is changing, and the skill sets that were valued a decade ago are not the ones that will carry you into the future. I've spoken with both IT leaders, senior networking professionals, CIOs, and others, and they all agree that both automation and programmability are required for the network to be better aligned with digital trends. So engineers who focus on mundane and repetitive tasks won't be needed in the not too distant future. Skill sets that are in demand include software fluency, analytics, strategic planning, and security that are allowed, or I should say, aligned with digital trends. So the challenge for you as a network professional is that you can't reskill if you're busy running the day-to-day operations, right? My advice to all network professionals is that if you are doing something that isn't strategic to your career, don't do it. Find a way to automate it. And those capabilities are made possible through your participation in DevNet. So this slide here talks about networking professionals being at around 20 million, software developers around 6 million. So when I was putting together this presentation, it made me think about, I don't know, I'm going to date myself here now, maybe 20 or 30 years ago, when you had a separate telephony group, and then you had a separate networking group, and then because all of the latest and greatest voice over IP and telephone equipment and so forth all ran on the same infrastructure, those folks merged. So the telephone guys need to pick up some network skills, and the network guys need to pick up some telephony skills, right? The same thing is kind of happening with regard to software developers and network professionals today. And with the launch of our programmable switch series, the Catalyst 9000, it's critical that the network engineer pick up some programming skills and that the software developer learn more about how his or her application is not only going to be accessed on the network, but also how it's going to perform there. And there's a huge growth in both network programmability and security, but that provides an opportunity in automating the network functionality and understanding how to communicate and integrate both networking and software. So let's talk a few minutes about some of the terms that you should in fact be aware of. SDN, you guys have probably heard about it before, right? Software-defined networking. It's an architectural approach that allows the network to be intelligently and centrally controlled or programmed using software, helping admins manage the entire network consistently and holistically, regardless of the underlying network technology. Both enterprises, carriers, service providers are all being surrounded by several competing forces. The monumental growth in multimedia content, the explosion of cloud, the impact and increasing mobile utilization, and continuous business pressures to reduce costs, specifically when revenues remain flat, are all converging to wreak havoc on the traditional business model. So in an effort to keep pace, many of these players are turning to SDN technology in an effort to revolutionize how our networks design and how they're operated. So SDN enables the programming of the network behavior from a centrally controlled appliance through software apps using open APIs. By opening up traditionally closed network platforms and implementing a common SDN control layer, operators can manage the entire network and its devices consistently regardless of the complexity of the underlying network technology itself. SDN helps users virtualize their hardware, and it works to create a network by breaking down the network into the following planes or layers. There's the infrastructure layer at the bottom, which is composed of networking equipment forming the underlying network to forward traffic. You've got the control layer, which is the land of the control plane where the intelligent logic of SDN controllers reside to control the network infrastructure. This is the area where every network vendor is working to produce their own products for the SDN controller and or the framework. Here in this layer, a lot of business logic is being written in controller to fetch and maintain different types of information, things like state details, topology details, statistics, things of that nature. The application layer is an open area to develop as much innovative apps as possible by leveraging all of the information about the network, including the topology, the status, various statistics. Applications can then be developed like those related to network automation, configuration and management, network monitoring and troubleshooting. What else? Implementing network policies and security. So when it was first deployed by large enterprises such as Google and Amazon, SDN created scalable data centers. It facilitated network resources and new server expansion, while at the same time reducing the workload for IT administrators. SDN optimized the efficiency of the upscaling process for these large companies, and that's what drew the attention of other large companies who adopted SDN also in an effort to improve their upscaling efficiency. Software automation and data analytics are changing the face of computer networks, including how our networks are designed, built, and operated. So what's happening, excuse me, is that we're moving away from a world where a network operator manages tens of network devices, but instead one individual can deploy and manage hundreds, thousands, and even tens of thousands of network devices with the help of software and data analytics. And this transformation is spreading from both the data center out to the entire network. And to facilitate these changes, what Cisco has done is introduce some software innovation for cloud scale networking, excuse me, with their Cisco IOS XR last year. And one of the primary components is called model-driven programmability. So what does that mean? Well, there are several Yang models, yet another network language models allow you to control the features in iOS XR. Data models provide a structured and well-defined base that facilitates the programmatic interaction of the network devices. In addition, Yang gives you a way, specifically through the modeling language, that's optimized for network devices with a growing number of tools and utilities. So you can make use of programming APIs to abstract protocol, transport, and encoding details that will allow you to focus on what's most important, which is the data. It's the configuration and operational data that's controlling the network and ultimately what's driving automation. It's the APIs that allow the network programmer to focus on the underlying structure and hierarchy of the data without necessarily having to master the specifics of Yang syntax. So data modeling refers to the practice of documenting software and business systems design. The modeling of these various systems and processes involves the use of both diagrams, symbols, textual references to represent the way that data flows through an application or the architecture within an enterprise. It also includes practices like business process modeling that deals with larger conceptual business processes and decision-making flows of an entire organization. Some of the benefits of data modeling for an organization include higher quality software development, faster time to market, better application and database performance, fewer errors in the code, and better risk management. This gives a little bit more details about Yang, yet another next generation. We said that that was a data modeling language for the definition of data that's sent over a network management protocol like NetCom for RESTConf. NetCom is the standard for installing, manipulating, and deleting configuration of network devices, while Yang is used to both model configuration and state data of network elements. What does this mean? Well, network automation today is currently blocked by the approaches where we need to perhaps write a specific device CLI, or we might be locked into some rigid closed tools. There's nothing wrong with the CLI. We've been using that for years, right? It's perfect for you and I, but it's less optimal for software. The NetCom protocol, for example, is defined for the transaction-safe configuration of devices, meaning that scenarios like setting up the initial configuration for a device, changing an access control list, adding a VPN, can now all be performed automagically while keeping flexibility and vendor independence. Ultimately, the technology is designed to support a robust management of configuration tasks, including configuration change transactions like rollbacks, separation between configuration and state data, allowing both backup and restore, as well as selective data retrieval with filtering and query mechanisms, and streaming and playback of event notifications. Now, configuration management, or CM, is another term that you need to be aware of. It's the process of tracking and controlling the changes in a software application with respect to its requirements, its design, its function, all during the development of a product. Now, there's two types of configuration management approaches. There's a pull model, where hosts are dynamically updated with the configs that are present on a server, and a push model, where you have a centralized server that pushes the configs down to those hosts. We're going to talk a little bit about Puppet, Chef, and Ansible. Those are three separate tools that represent different ways to achieve the common goal of managing a large-scale server infrastructure efficiently with minimal input from the developers and system administrators. Knowing where to get started with automation can be a challenge for most organizations, because one of the first considerations is usually which one of these tools are we going to use. Most of these tools fall into either one of two camps, either agent-based or agentless-based. So what is an agent, you ask? Agent-based tools like Puppet require the user to install a piece of code on each device that's going to be managed. That's called an agent. Each of those agents then communicates over encrypted communication to a controlling master device, storing the desired configuration of the machine that it manages. So the master can make changes in a secure way to manage those devices that have an agent installed by simply changing the configuration management, or manifest, I should say, of that machine, which is hosted on the master. So what about the agentless-based tools? Well, tools like Puppet, Bolt, and Ansible don't require an agent to be installed on the machine that's going to be managed. And that works when you have just a very simple or easy deployment to be made without adding the efforts to create the configuration template for the master to manage. So it becomes apparent very quickly that both sets of tools might be required to cover any type of requirement that a DevOps team might have. The real benefit is when you have both an agent and agentless capabilities to complement each other, like with Puppet Enterprise or Puppet Bolt. So you have a user that needs only to use a single language for all of their agent and agentless based tasks, and they don't have to keep flipping between the languages. Puppet, a little bit more information on Puppet. That's a configuration management tool that's used by system administrators as well as cloud admins. It's an open source configuration management solution that's built with Ruby, and it offers domain-specific language and embedded Ruby templates to create custom Puppet language files. And it follows a client-server model where one machine in any cluster can act as a server called the Puppet master. The other can act as a client called the slave node. And so Puppet can manage any system from scratch, starting from the initial configuration to the end of life of any machine. And it can run on any Ruby install platform like Windows Server, CentOS, Linux, and Oracle Enterprise. Chef is another configuration management tool developed on Ruby DSL, and it's used to automate both infrastructure and provisioning. It's a flexible cloud infrastructure automation tool that allows users to install apps to bare metal VMs as well as cloud containers. So a user can manage the infrastructure through code rather than a manual process. Chef is just like the Puppet master agent model that uses a pull-based approach, and it needs a logical Chef workstation to control the configurations from the master to the agents. And you can easily integrate Chef with any cloud-based platform like Microsoft Azure, Amazon EC2, Intermap, SoftLayer, and Rackspace. And it supports a number of different platforms like AIX, CentOS, Solaris, Ubuntu, and all flavors of Linux. Ansible is a simple open source IT engine that automates the application deployment, the orchestration, the cloud provisioning, and other attributes. Relatively simple to deploy because it doesn't use any agents or custom security infrastructure. When we compare Puppet and Chef to Ansible, it was developed to simply support our desire for configuration management. And it performs the platform that Ansible is written in is Python, so it allows users to script commands in YAML. It's designed for multi-tier deployment. It doesn't manage one system at a time. It models IT infrastructure by describing all of the interrelated systems. It's completely agentless, which means that it works by connecting nodes through Secure Shell as an example by default. It also allows you to use other methods of connection, things like Kubros. After connecting to nodes, Ansible pushes small programs called modules, and then it runs those and then removes them from the infrastructure device when complete. It manages inventory and simple text files to group the host and then control the activity on a specific group in what's called playbooks. So those are some of the tools that we wanted to make sure that you were familiar with. Now, when we're going to get back to talking about the DevNet portal, this is where you can get started. So the top concern is, where do I get started? And the reason why that's a daunting task is that it's estimated that about 70% of network engineers have yet to create their own API. You might be great at working with the command line interface and writing scripts to automate some of your changes, but APIs remain as foreign to them as emotions are to our friend Spock. So because of this, the intimidation level can be extremely high. So what Cisco has tried to do is they structured the program around a number of self-paced learning labs that start with the very basics, where it assumes no prior programming skills. In fact, the first couple of labs are simply a step-by-step guide to making an API. There's a number of how-to videos, so DevNet members can try things out without having to purchase equipment. And as your skill level increases, so do the labs. So you can get started regardless of skill level. There's also a learning and sandbox environment for those trying to learn coding and testing of applications. So that's definitely something you want to take a look at, developer.cisco.com. And it provides tools, resources, opportunities for learning, and the ability to grow careers. And it's organized into these primary four areas: learn, code, inspire, and connect. So step one would be to take a look at the learning tracks online. They're free, they're available 24/7. You can do that on your own. They're self-paced tutorials, they're self-paced modules and labs. So you'll be exposed to coding, what it means to code a REST API. You'll be able to get exposure to Python and that network programmability that we said was so important to your continuing career as a network admin or engineer. And then inside of DevNet, all of the available equipment, you can play with it. You don't have to own it. You can reserve a sandbox that guarantees availability. Again, it's up 24/7, so it's always up, and there's absolutely no cost to get started. Also, Inspire was one of those 4 steps where you can view innovations that others have built, or you can upload your own. It's a great place to identify some specific expertise from those on the same site with whom you might wish to collaborate. So you can find inspiration or even ask questions on the site. Now, it's fair to say that with the age of Cisco, DevNet is still within its infancy. 500,000 members is impressive in 5 years, but I expect that number to ramp up sharply over the next few years. The network has never been more important because it interfaces with both users, IoT devices, mobile endpoints, the cloud, and every other piece of technology a business uses. Another opportunity for you is to engage with our events. Cisco holds a number of small local events called DevNet Express. There's a wide range of them held all over the world. Also, at each Cisco Live event, there's a DevNet zone designed specifically for network professionals to kickstart their path to being a software power user. Cisco Live 2021 is coming up in June, so anyone attending that can check it out for themselves. And what you're seeing here on this slide is a snapshot of Cisco Live. I can't remember exactly which one. I think it was a couple years ago prior to COVID. But Cisco Live is a great place to meet, learn, and have fun. And then I'll include this slide here, which is a slide that'll give you access to some of the resources that are out there as well. And I think that that's it. We'll take any questions that might be out there now. Layla?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You just have so much knowledge on this information, which is why we always love having you. Before we do get to our questions, so while you guys are brewing them up in your minds, we are going to go ahead and hear from Eliza Singh. She is our product manager, and she's going to introduce some promotions and webinar related courses really quick here. Let me make her the presenter. Eliza, you should be able to share your screen. But you are muted still. There, you're unmuted.
Yeah, I was like, why is Leela not unmuting me?
I think it was like, I went to unmute you and then you unmuted yourself, and then I actually just muted you.
No big deal, no big deal. We'll take that offline. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you so much. And Robert, really a very, very insightful session. And while people are brewing up their questions, I have a couple of questions from you, more from the learner's perspective. You know, I am learning a lot about Cisco nowadays as well. You know, Cisco, everybody that I used to speak to in the past, they were all about, hey, you know, I want to become a CCNA or I want to become a CCNP. And then Cisco evolved, you know, years ago, and then they went into several tracks when it came to the CCNP. But now, even for the associate tracks, we see there is a CCNA for DevNet, which is the DevNet Associate, and then there is one for CyberOps. And I know that you have done plenty of trainings for CCNA and maybe for DevNet as well. What I wanted to ask you is, as a learner, if I was to come to you and I asked you that what track should I go for? You know, because if I go for a DevNet, then I could just go into the DevNet professional track as well. They kind of like, you know, synchronized with each other. How would you answer that question for learners?
I'm going to give you the standard Cisco response. It depends, Eliza. What I would do is probably, before I gave you an answer, I would ask some more questions. I would ask about your experience. I would ask you about, you know, what type of experience you have, for example, with the command line interface, and also what is it that you're thinking about doing? What do you think that you need to learn in order to best support the organization that you work for now, as well as take advantage of some other opportunities within the industry? And then, for example, if you were to tell me that you were a network engineer with a number of years of experience, et cetera, then I would recommend to, you know, dip your toe in the water with some of the DevNet associate courses, some of the ones that are provided, for example, by NetCom Learning, that allow you as a network professional to find out what DevNet is all about, so that you can, and it's really this important to be able to speak the language, to talk to software engineers, to understand what their language is all about, so that you can cross-pollinate and also increase your skill set so that you can go out there and qualify for one of those DevNet certs that are out there. Looks like you've pulled them up on the screen as well.
I thought that it would be great if I did, because my next question was coming from Cisco tracks as well. So when you get into the Cisco DevNet track, right, what you'll see over here, that this track is just so, it incorporates pretty much every other track, and then it talks about something, you know, the automation part of it. You know, like the Enauto, which is enterprise, Claudo is all about collaboration, and there's data center, service provider in the DevNet professional track. So most people, when they go for the concentration or the core exams, as you speak of, what would you say? Should I take the concentration of something that I prefer more in the professional track, or should I go for the core first?
You want to take one of the intro courses initially if you don't have any experience with DevNet. I'm actually going to pull up something else. Here we go. Would you mind if I share my screen?
Absolutely not. I'm waiting for it.
All right, so here is the new Cisco certification roadmap. And what you can see on the far right-hand side is there is in fact
Robert, we can't see it yet. It took me a second to pass the presentation over to you.
All right.
You'll have to accept.
Show my screen. All right. Oh, there we go. So you guys are seeing that now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you look on the right-hand side, then if you're just getting introduced to DevNet, then I would recommend the DevNet Associate. That's in the lower right-hand side. That's equivalent of going out there and getting your CCNA in DevNet. Then you can move on to DevNet Specialist. I'm going up now from the right-hand side. DevNet Specialist, and then Cisco Certified DevNet Professional, and then CCIE for DevNet. So the place to get started would be at the Cisco site, so that you can have access to the free exposure there, and then to partner with one of our learning partners like NetCom Learning, so that you can obtain your DevNet Associate as the first step in your roadmap to DevNet certification.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Robert, for sharing this. So thank you for answering my questions, and I'm pretty sure people are probably putting up their questions in the chat box right now. So what my thing to do is that I am going to be taking you through our NetCom website and several promotions which you can actually partake into in order to learn the Cisco track. There is also a product update for Cisco about the Cisco learning credits, which I will also take you through, and then it's up to you which track you want to choose based on your experience and so on and so forth, like Robert said. So if you ever want to come to our Cisco page, we have a plethora of resources and so on and so forth. You can always come to our home screen and come to our website, which is www.netcomlearning.com. And either you could just type here Cisco, go into the training and look for Cisco in our vendors, or on the homepage itself, you could just click on Cisco. Now, once you do that, you would be brought to a Cisco specific vendor page where you will be able to see various tracks. Now, you have the associate tracks between the CCNA, the DevNet, and the CyberOps, and the several courses and streams which are listed into that. And then you have the professional track as well, which takes you through all different tracks, being it the enterprise data center, and you'll also be able to see DevNet over here. We have our popular learning tracks listed over here. And if you want to go through our resources, you can read the blog, you can watch the videos, and you can also learn more about the CLCs. Now, when you talk about the Cisco Learning Credits, and I'm quite sure that you guys are already familiar with it. So that's one way to come to the Cisco Learning Credits page. Or the second way would be you come to our solutions. And under solutions, you will see Cisco Learning Credits. It's the third last option. Now, the product update for Cisco Learning Credits is as of June 14th of 2021. You will not be able to redeem your Cisco Learning Credits with the learning partners. You can still redeem with Cisco themselves, but you will not be able to redeem them with the learning partners. So all kinds of discounting and so on and so forth, the packages that you receive from the learning partners, you might not be able to do that. We have schedules for the Cisco Learning tracks. And if you scroll a little bit further into the page, what you will be able to see are, again, your tracks and the various courses, the various streams which actually go into each and every track. So if you want to go through, let's say for security, you have all the tracks. Everything that you saw on the Cisco career path, you will be able to see on the Cisco Learning Credits page as well. We also have a capability brochure from NetCom Learning. If you want to learn more about Cisco as our capability, you can always come in over here and you will be able to learn more towards the tracks. As far as promotions are concerned, if you come to our promotions section, you will see a lot of free trainings which are available. So, you have free cybersecurity training, which could be for the Cisco security track. It's a free 2-hour training if you want to take that for your team. Our only ask is that you have 10 or more people into that particular training. And then you have others as well, from PMP to Microsoft to AWS and so on and so forth. You'll be able to see that. We also have learning passes. So if you want, you can select learning passes from NetCom Learning. And with those learning passes, you can set yourself up for a particular plan, either it's for an individual or for a team, and you have great ways to save when you choose a plan. We have other webinars coming up. So if you want to sign up for more webinars, you're more than welcome to do that. Just come to our resources and webinars, and you will see that there are webinars happening for various different practice areas. You will see business processes over here. We are having a discovery day on ITIL4. That might be your speed. So you want to sign up for that. It's a 2-hour class. And then we also have master classes on cloud. We also have webinars coming up for application development, security, so on and so forth. But if you miss a webinar, I can also take you to the on-demand webinars or on-demand trainings. You can just come over here and you can watch our past webinars as well. So that's all I have today, Leela. Thank you so much for having me, and back to you.
Wonderful. Okay, we will go ahead and get to our questions right away then. Our first question, we had somebody ask, actually we had several people ask if there was a certification for today or a certificate, and there is not one for today. Is that correct, Eliza?
Yes, there is no certification for today because this is a 40-minute webinar on a very, very robust topic. So it depends, considering there is no course outline for this particular topic, you wouldn't receive a certificate.
Wonderful. Okay, and then somebody, I know you mentioned a June 14th date. Can you elaborate what it was that happens after June 14th?
Okay, sure. As a matter of fact, I actually, I might have a slide on that. Give me one quick moment. Okay, let me know if you can see my slide.
Yes.
Okay. So on April 5th, Cisco sent out a notification to all of its customers and all of its learning partners that the Cisco learning credits are going to be discontinued. As in, when you go to a learning partner, you will not be able to redeem your Cisco learning credits. So if you have purchased them or if you have received them, let's say when you renewed with Cisco and you received Cisco learning credits, depending on which kind of band that you stand on with Cisco, you will not be able to redeem those learning credits with the learning partners. So there is a max reimbursement actually, which actually stepped in for Cisco learning credits as of May 6th. So now if you want to redeem, so let's say if you have a lot of Cisco learning credits sitting with you as of now, come to us and redeem your Cisco learning credits. There are various reasons that I can tell you as to why redeem your Cisco learning credits with us, but I'm not going to be very vocal about that. But June 14th is actually going to be the last date that you can start your class with a learning partner when your mode of payment or your form of payment was Cisco learning credits. So June 14th, you have to keep that date in mind. So if you are thinking about a track that you want to get your teams trained on, or if you yourself want to get trained on Cisco, and you have Cisco learning credits, and you see a schedule which you like for Cisco, which is going to work for you, just let us know and we will be able to set you up with that schedule and with the labs that Cisco has to provide. But June 14th is going to be the last day that you can start that class. If you don't see a schedule, again, come to us. Let us know that you need a schedule prior to June 14th, but you do not see a schedule date. You can request a schedule with us if you want to. Just give us a call. Give me a second. Let me take you back to our homepage. So in order to get in touch with us, you just click over here. You can give us a call, or you could just send us an email. You can also send us an email at cisco@netcomlearning.com. Request your schedule, request a date, request the type of training that you want. Do you want an exam voucher with it? Put everything up in that email, and one of the learning consultants will be more than happy to get in touch with you. Thanks.
Wonderful. And there is a follow-up question on, I think a couple follow-up questions just for you. And we will get to the questions for Robert in just a sec. So, and they're asking, does that CCNA exam vouchers? I'm not sure what they're asking. Does that include CCNA exam vouchers?
As a matter of fact, if you have Cisco learning credits, you can use it either for learning or you can use it for exam vouchers. It is up to you. So if you are taking the learning from us for, hypothetically speaking, CCNA, we can definitely go in and purchase your exam vouchers for you as well. Definitely. Just talk to a learning consultant. They can work everything up for you.
Okay, wonderful. And we are running low on time, so we're going to go ahead and get to these other questions. Robert, in general, how many DevNet certifications, or how are, helps if I read it right, how are DevNet certifications different than Cisco's infrastructure certifications or certificate?
All right, good. Excellent questions. Well, everybody knows that Cisco certs are some of the most prestigious credentials in the IT world. The DevNet certs are a new set of certs intended to validate the software skills, things like programming and application development, DevOps and automation. Now, while both certs are unique and distinct to their subject matter, they're actually very complementary. So together, these certifications provide a comprehensive program that validates the skill sets of both IT infrastructure as well as software.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see. Our next question we have is, what is the benefit of taking the DevNet Associate Fundamentals course versus just jumping right in to take the DevNet Associate exam?
Well, by taking the DevNet Associate Fundamentals course, that provides a learner with a unique opportunity to get a solid understanding of where they are with regard to the content. What it does is it benefits them as they're taking the training and as they continue to grow in their deeper understanding around more complex concepts and automation. So it's meant to serve as a next generation learning experience and also to help prepare them for the exam with a focus on reading materials, getting some content, and then also some hands-on exercises. It's also designed to help accelerate the studies for the cert, so it allows that learner to learn at their own pace with DevNet support along the way.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've got about one more question before we've got to wrap it up here. Our final question for you today is, how many questions is the DevNet Associate exam?
That DevNet Associate is 175 questions in total, and it's spread over software development and design, understanding and using APIs, and then Cisco platforms and development.
Wonderful. Okay, it looks like that is the last of our questions for now. We are going to go ahead and launch a quick poll to find out how many people might be interested in taking some additional training. In addition to the webinar we had today, we have a lot of informative webinars that are coming up. So please go to www.netcomlearning.com/webinars/ to register for one of those. Also, we want to thank you all for joining us today. We know we kind of ran out of time towards the end, but if you do come up with any additional questions, please feel free to send them to us at webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope you all found today's webinar to be very informative, and we really look forward to seeing you all back here with us very soon. Also, feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Once again, thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you, Eliza. Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Robert.
You're quite welcome. Thank you, guys. Have a great afternoon.